Oh, okay. Now that Maharaga's cooked, suddenly the 10 Shadows is useless now. Almost as if without Mahoraga, it's a bad technique. Also, Megumi's cooked too. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil here, and here we are to do a quick discussion. It may not be quick, a discussion on whether or not the 10 Shadows and Megumi as a whole are kind of useless now after Satoru Gojo, well, said this was our Jujutsu Kaisen and Satoru Gojo all over the 10 Shadows and Meguna and pretty much everything the 10 Shadows had to offer. Is technique now worthless with a whole bunch of its most powerful things destroyed, annihilated, removed from existence, and obviously its main user being sunk inside the King of Curses and maybe like sunk down within the sunken place even more due to what, like 5 unlimited voids? We have a whole lot to talk about, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? I've got the pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have a pencil. And another fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, I'm not saying that the 10 Shadows is worthless now. In fact, the 10 Shadows may be better than they ever were before. But before we tackle the 10 Shadows themselves, I feel like we got to talk about the afterthought. Because it basically is an afterthought now. Like, I want to have hope. I really do want to have hope, y'all. But Megumi Fushiguro has to be cooked, y'all. Like, there's absolutely no way that Megumi Fushiguro is still, like, a conscious, sentient human. Like, you gotta remember, I bring this up all the time, but it was for not even 0.2 seconds. It was for 0.2 seconds that people in Shibuya were exposed to Unlimited Void, and they needed 2 whole months of recovery. If we just go with the low ball and we try to believe that, okay, the reason Mahoraga came out so well adapted to Unlimited Void that he literally was just like, hi, and boom, poke the ground. Let's assume that one of the times in the tiny domain, Megumi was exposed to Unlimited Void for 3 minutes straight. Let's go with that, 3 minutes straight, because we're going to assume that Suguna was consistently exposing Megumi. He was blocking himself with the sure hits, so his own brain wasn't being damaged and his own soul was being damaged, but he kept the door wide open, opened that bad boy up for Megumi. There was one whole 3-minute domain, and then there was another 2-minute and 45-second domain, I do believe. So let's just run some mathematicals real quick. 0.2 seconds equals 2 months of recovery for a regular person. Okay, pretty solid. So 0.2 seconds. Let's do some mathematicals. There are 5.2 seconds in a second. So that's 5 for 1 second. Megumi experienced, at bare minimum, and I'm lowballing by the way, he probably experienced way more of Unlimited Void. But let's just say the 1 3-minute mini domain and the other the 2-minute 45-second mini domain are the main 2 he experienced. So we got 0.2 seconds equals 2 months of recovery. So essentially for every 0.1 second equals about a month's worth of information or a month's worth of recovery. So we're going to do some quick mathematicals. 5.2 seconds per second. So 5 times 0.2 is already showing at a smooth and buttery 10 months of recovery. But remember, we aren't just talking about the 10 months, assuming he was exposed the entire time just for the 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Let's do that real quick. 5 minutes is 5 times 60. Actually, no, I'm going to whip out the whole calculator for this because I don't want to whip out the wrong number. So calculator, I summon thee. Let's do some mathematicals, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to that guy with the calculator. We are going to have to do this. Let's see. So obviously 5 times 0.2 is about 10 months of recovery for 1 second. 5 times, this sounds be so bad. 5 times 60 times oh, sweet mother. I'm probably doing the math wrong. 3,000? just what, 3,000 months over. Hold on, let me just do basic. I should have done this before the recording, but let's do mathematics together, ladies and gentlemen. Let's all whip out our calculators and let's go to math class on this one. 0.2 seconds of exposure to infinite void equals 2 months of recovery. So for every 0.1 second that Megumi experienced, he gains about a month of recovery. We're gonna dilute the number so it's nice and low, because Megumi's a sorcerer, he has cursed energy. Maybe there's going to be some effect. We see the cursed spirits are affected for way less than 2 months. But once again, let's just run some basic mathematics. We're going to do 0.2 times 5, which equals 1 second. So let's just do for 1 second, which is going to be 10 months, since each 0.1 second equals about a month of recovery, just based on the 0.2 for each of the people getting 2 months worth of recovery. So at 1 second of domain exposure, Megumi's already basically bedridden and needed to be in a mental asylum for 10 months for 1 second. And for 5 minutes and 45 seconds, that's going to be 5 times 60. So that's going to be 300. All right, this already sounds awful. So we'll do that equals that times 300, which is 3,000, and then the last 45 seconds. I feel like the math is not mathing properly here. What am I thinking? Something's wrong here. But essentially, let's just go with 3,000, even though I think that's the wrong number. 3,000 months. Let's just divide that by 12 to see how many months. 250 years. That man's gonna be for 250 years, y'all. He literally cannot even live long enough to recover from how much exposure he's gotten from Unlimited Void. And here's the thing. It's specifically his soul that is stuffed with this information. We know the whole idea of JJK is that there's some sort of mind-body dualism going on. So the mind is, well, not mind-body, soul-body dualism, where the soul is the body and the body is the soul. That's what Kenjaku assumes, and considering Kenjaku is most likely the most knowledgeable character in the entire series, the one who actually taught Sukuna how to split up their soul, it's most likely that we can take Kenjaku's word on the fact that the body is the soul and the soul is the body. So let's say those two equivocate. We see examples of this, like Toji having a special body, means he has a special soul, which can override other souls if they're used in, reincarnation or seance techniques. So Megumi's soul is its own unique independent thing, even though it's tied to his body. So when Sukuna's soul, which is separate from his vessel's soul, we know this, goes mostly unaffected by the effects of Unlimited Void, due to avoiding most of it and shoving it all on Megumi, Megumi's soul is still damaged. Even though Sukuna allowed his body to finish incarnating into his original Heian-era state, and his mind may be fully healed because it's his brain, his body, Megumi's soul is still a separate thing. That's why Sukuna didn't experience any backlash from the 10 Shadows. Well, not the 10 Shadows, from Unlimited Void while Megumi was experiencing all of it. He didn't have any of that. The only reason he actually got any brain damage is because he himself, because of his late opening of his own domain, was actually exposed for no more than 10 seconds. Like, just 10 seconds had Sukuna seeing stars. So Megumi, who has about 250 years, once again, I probably did that math horribly wrong. I should have calculated that before the video. But feel free to put the correct number down below. I know you're about, all the mathematicians in the comments are going to be like, pencil, you fool. But let's just go with the idea that it's 250 years of recovery. Let's just say it's 50 years. Let's say it takes a fifth of the time for him to recover, because he should be, 5 times better than the average human being mentally. I'd say that makes sense. So he should be able to process the information faster and stuff like that. Heck, let's say it's 10 times faster. Let's say he's just 10 times faster than a human being at recovering. You know what? Let's keep it 10. The man's catatonic for 25 years. Once again, just going off the 3,000 number, which I'm pretty sure is wrong. So Megumi's go. Megumi's absolutely useless. I don't think that man can be recovered. And remember, here's the thing about Megumi. He's still sharing a body with Sukuna. And sure, a lot of people are going with the idea that Yuji Itadori has some sort of soul manipulation ability. He has ways to save Megumi. He even mentions in the chapter, hey, I have certain ideas on how to save Fushiguro. So he has some sort of plan. But, that was before Megumi got stuffed with literally, 3,000 months worth of information? A lot can change in the course of a month. And thusly, Yuji's ability to save Megumi's soul, even if he does bring Megumi's soul back to the forefront, it's still going to be in Sukuna's body, and his soul is still likely going to be catatonic. Megumi Fushiguro is useless. Like fundamentally, he's only useful as a vessel right now. Like if you were to put someone in his body, then they'd be able to use it. Well, he's just like he's gone. So Megumi Fushiguro, he's useless. Gojo ruined him. I hate to say it. I know that's Gojo's baby boy. Megumi. Like however what kind of Gojo voice was that? Essentially, if you've heard that like clip from the new JJK Curse Clash game, the way Gojo calls Megumi's name, yeah, I get that. It's too late. Gojo ruined that, man. And once again, I think 3,000 months is a low ball because I can't, for some reason, my brain cannot fathom the math on that properly at the moment. So 3,000 is low ball. Plus all the other times Megumi was exposed to Unlimited Void. Yeah, obviously, he's cooked. So Megumi, we can't save him. But the 10 Shadows technique, that's the unique one. Now, admittedly, y'all have softened me up on the 10 Shadows technique a whole lot. I read all the comments on the 10 Shadows is a bad technique video. And I do get it. There were some points I left out. There were some things I didn't consider. Especially just the utility the 10 Shadows has on its own as a storage mechanic, as a hiding mechanic, as a camping mechanic, as a teleportation mechanic. There's so many different things that the 10 Shadows has to offer. And that's my first defense of the 10 Shadows not being actually useless now that it's been, well, assigned to a guy who can't even... Does he even know the letter M anymore? I don't think he knows the rest of his name. Megumi's cooked. But for the 10 Shadows themselves, they do allow certain abilities that you would like to have. Realize that, for all intents and purposes, completely independent of the Shikigami. If Megumi feels like it, or a wielder of the 10 Shadows, because it ain't gonna be Megumi no more. If a wielder of the 10 Shadows feels like it, they can just dip into the shadows. They can just leave. Notably, it seems like maybe you can fire an attack into it. Because, like, we see Gojo go to aim a red, and then Sukuna very specifically summons Rabbit Escape. But, like, we know you can travel to other shadows. So, like, leave in the shadows, go into the shadow of, like, a lamppost, and just chill there. You can sit there as long as your cursed energy lasts. That's still a good ability that's really nice to have. The storage of the 10 Shadows is really, really good as well, especially for beings with cursed energy. Sure, while I already had this on me and keep this on me at all times, imagine if I just had my whole arsenal. I could just keep it in my back pocket. How I'm a cursed energy reinforced individual, I can carry a ton of weight. At bare minimum, this blade's like what? Maybe 7 pounds? I can at least carry like 10 of these just in my shadow pocket, which is still an ability that the 10 Shadows user would have access to, regardless of how many Shikigami are destroyed. Pretty good stuff, pretty good stuff. The other thing about the 10 Shadows that's actually, I'll admit, it's pretty darn nice, is that the domain expansion is still pretty valid. Notably, we've never seen a completed Chimera Shadow Garden. We don't know if that's the unified domain across all users of the 10 Shadows, an inherited technique. Then again, I'm not sure. Do we know if any of the domains are inherited or are they unique to each person? All the domains we see either are from one-time incarnations like Jogo, Dagon, Mahito. And then, like, the only one who would hypothetically have an inherited one would not even know, because it wouldn't be Naoya, because Naobito didn't have a domain expansion. He only had Falling Blossom Emotion. And then Gojo. But I'm not sure if Unlimited Void is something that's exclusive to Gojo, or if that's an inherited one. But essentially, domain-wise, assuming you just have Chimera Shadow Garden skill, I mean, I guess. You probably would. You probably would. I think that's the most basic expansion of the technique. And remember, Megumi doesn't even know how to use Chimera Shadow Garden appropriately. He can't complete the domain on his own. So the ability to produce shadow clones, multiple copies of your Shikigami, the ability to move anywhere within the shadow, summon your Shikigami from anywhere within the shadow. The domain expansion itself is still pretty darn cracked. Like, imagine a sure hit of all your Shikigami, instead of just being able to summon them freely, along with a sure hit of all your shadow clones, along with you yourself in there still jumping your opponent. It's still a pretty solid domain on its own, I'll give it that. Obviously, Megumi's trash, so he can't use it all the time. It's why when people say, oh, put Megumi in a versus battle, domain diff, I always ask, is there a building? Are they in a gymnasium? Are they in a bedroom? Like, where's he closing that barrier? Because he's sure ain't doing it himself. But with that being the case, the domain itself is still pretty beefy. But of course, we must toot the sad horn, because the real reason why people are saying the 10 Shadows is broken, the 10 Shadows can't work anymore, the 10 Shadows just ain't the peak technique it used to be, is because that big old meanie stupid head, that blue-eyed demon, Satoru Gojo, rocked up and was like, hey, that was a nice Shikigami you got there. What if? And just launched off. The big one we won't talk about just yet. Let's talk about the poor sacrifice of 3 Shiki. I think it was 3. Let me double check. What is Nue's Ahito made out of? Let me double check. Nue Totality, Merged Beast Ahito, is an improved humanoid version of the Nue Shikigami, which inherited the powers of Great Serpent, Tiger Funeral, and Round Deer. Plus Nue. That's 4 Shikigami that got sacked. Unfortunately, this Nue Ahito is described as a totality, not a Wells Abyss. Wells Abyss appeared to be able to be executed with absolutely no problem at all, which is good. You know, that allows for freedom and flexibility. But Nue getting sacked isn't exactly the best. Like, still, the Nue that we saw Sukuna first summon when he possessed Megumi's body is still, like, one of the best summons in the series. Those gigantic lightning bolts, just because Maki face tanked them, that doesn't matter. Maki's her. Of course she'd face tank them. Just because Takaba face tanked them, doesn't matter. Takaba's him. Of course he'd face tank them. But still, like, that one lightning blast, that one cooldown of electricity, it's fantastic. Would annihilate a majority of the verse. Like a solid, I'd say darn near 90% of it. They would all get cooked. The only exceptions are the characters like Maki, Toji, Ahito itself, obviously. Mahito, maybe? Mahito will probably be able to tank it, because then again, it's Sukuna. It may actually, like, accidentally attack the soul, too. So maybe Mahito would be safe. But Hikari, Ishigori, like, there's a decent chunk of later series characters who would be able to survive it. But, like, still, very good ability, lost forever. And obviously the Round Deer is lost forever. So there's no utility of that. It's absolutely annihilated. Obviously, the Great Serpent. Orochi kind of been cooked for a while, though, like, super long into the early series. Orochi's been cooked, so that's no good. And we never got to see Morning Tiger or Funeral Tiger. I mean, clearly it didn't do too much for Ahito, so it's pretty much cooked too. So that's not 1. That's not 2. That's not 3. That's not even... It is 4. It is definitively 4 Shikigami that are completely cooked because of that monster, that beast, that animal known as Satoru Gojo, who, you know, like, is it legally incorrect to say he fisted Nue / Ahito, just like Yuta wanted to? I don't think so. He blue-fisted Ahito. He Azure-fisted Ahito. That sounds like it could be a game. The Azure Fist? Then again, I'm thinking of Azure Striker. Play the Gunvolt games if you haven't, by the way. But with that being the case, Ahito is cooked. That takes off Nue's lightning abilities and freeform flight for the user, which isn't very good. It takes away Round Deer's ability to heal the user using RCT and also disable other cursed techniques or anything imbued with cursed energy, such as the liquid metal of Yorozu and possibly even the Infinity. Though admittedly, that's a little bit weird. I'm not sure if Ahito actually bypass the Infinity by releasing positive energy or not. I don't know. It's weird because there's an impact, kind of, sort of, when Ahito punches, but I don't think so. I'm not exactly sure. And Gojo never mentions it shutting down the Infinity too. Specifically, Mahoraga is used to shut down the Infinity. We'll get to Mahoraga in a second. Orochi's size, admittedly, didn't really factor too much into Ahito. Like, it was big, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like gargantuan in comparison to what Orochi was. Remember when Megumi summoned Orochi? Orochi was massive. Gargantuan. So was the initial Nue and Orochi combo, but Ahito mainly just lost size and I guess maybe fangs from Orochi, but still, it's not the best. And obviously, Morning Tiger, we know nothing about. I mean, it hurts to lose it, but it's not exactly the most important thing if we never even got to see it on its own, and clearly wasn't the most powerful. So 4 Shikigami got sacked. That's darn near half of the 10 shadows. They're all cooked. Every single one of them. But that's okay, you know, it's just only 4 Shikigami, right? I mean, it's a 6 shadows technique, you know, it even has alliteration now. Yeah, it's wonderful that Mahoraga is cooked. And by cooked, I literally mean like annihilated. That man is wiped from it. Like, I don't see pieces of him anywhere. Like, we literally got to see what was arguably the most indestructible thing in the series up to a point. Like, next to Sukuna's fingers, for some reason, Mahoraga's wheel is just one of the most durable things ever. Like, 15-finger Sukuna. No nerfs, no cursed energy output nerfs, or nothing. Pulled back with a completely new technique, which was the fire out. Launched it off, and the wheel was just fine. Mahoraga itself was cooked quite literally. Like, I can't even pretend to say it wasn't quite literally. But Mahoraga himself was cooked, but the whale was just fine. And considering Satoru Gojo never tried to, like, blue the wheel or red the wheel or even seemingly try to waste the time and try to purple the wheel, it appeared that the wheel was just like Omega Giga indestructible. Nope. an unrestricted hollow purple vaporized that thing. Mahoraga is no longer canon. That boy got erased. And obviously, Mahoraga, in my opinion, is the peak of the Ten Shadows. It's the only reason why I give the Ten Shadows the time of day before I admittedly came over to it a little bit more. Now I think it's an upper mid-tier technique on its own. I don't consider Mahoraga part of the technique unless you're Sukuna. Because clearly, it's not part of the technique unless you're Sukuna, unless you want to count like a double KO as part of the technique. Like, if you think Yuki's black hole is a viable part of her moveset, I mean, that's okay. I don't think so, though, because it's like, it takes her out, too. Typically, when you want to beat your opponent, you also do not want to beat yourself. Not in that way. Probably in that way either. You don't want to do that. Not when you're trying to fight your opponent. And with that being the case, I'm not necessarily going to count Mahoraga in the hands of any other Ten Shadows user. And I'm not going to count Yuki's black hole for her kit as, like, viable win cons. Like, yeah, sure, you won, but now who's cooked? Oh, wait, you too. So, like, sure, you may win first, but I wouldn't say Mahoraga counts. But specifically for the idea of a user who's tamed Mahoraga, Mahoraga's the best the Ten Shadows got. Probably better than the Domain on its own. Probably better than even the Shadow Hiding on its own. Mahoraga is so jacked and juicy. He pretty much backpacks the technique on its own. He's the reason that Bummy 6-size user lost. Like, I stand by it. I hereby declare and I stand by it. The whole reason, and I mean the whole reason, that 6-size and Limitless user lost is because, one, he was probably Teen Gojo level, pre-awakening, and 2, Mahoraga. That's the only reason that 6-size Limitless user lost, because there's no other reason why it should have lost. Like, if it had red, it should have been able to one-tap Mahoraga. But clearly, Mahoraga's just like that. He's able to slaughter 6-size and Limitless users, you know, like, the most powerful combo technique in the verse, outside of whatever Sukuna's rocking. And Mahoraga is clearly able to be shown to adapt to pretty much any and all phenomena. So if you yourself are more tanky than Mahoraga, or like say you're resistant to certain things, you're always just going to be resistant. You'll never be immune. But if you put that Mahoraga wheel on your head and that bad boy gets to spinning, things can get devious. We see this in Gojo versus Sukuna in particular, and even against Yorozu. The thing with that is that Sukuna was so beefy and bulky, inarguably the bulkiest character in the series. Like, I don't think, like, I guess you could argue Gojo's technically bulkier because RCT and he ate multiple cleaves back to back to back to back to back. But, like, I'd call that more endurance / longevity than sheer bulk. Like, I don't think anyone eats a hit in the series better than Sukuna. Like, I don't think so. That's just been, like, he literally ate a 200% hollow purple straight to the face. Sure, was the efficacy of it lowered as it fired long distance? Yeah. But, like, still, he ate a 200% hollow purple. Even if it was lowered down to, like, 50%. The rest of the verse, maybe even including Satoru himself, okay, he would. But, like, a majority of the verse, everyone but those two ain't surviving a hollow purple at 50%, maybe even 25%, maybe even at 10%. So obviously, Sukuna is one of the bulkiest characters in the verse, and he's able to bolster Mahoraga's adaptability even more by taking a lot of the hits for him on weaker variations of techniques. So when Mahoraga comes out, it's basically indestructible. We see Gojo land numerous black flashes on it, and it's just like, not all you got, bro. Once it's adapted to blues and Gojo's amping himself with his punches and stuff like that. So that's just, Mahoraga is clearly just him. The adaptation of phenomena on its own makes Mahoraga, like, if you were to separate Mahoraga from the Ten Shadows user and just try to rank it amongst the cast, it's probably on its own, like a top 10, arguably top 5 character, the way certain characters are set up. Now it's harder to argue. Like, you can definitely argue Gojo, Sukuna. Kashi was kind of weird though. Like, unless he can make that electronic blast big enough that it would cover all of Mahoraga's surface area, it's very unlikely that it would actually be able to beat Mahoraga. So maybe Phantom Beast Ember Kashimo wouldn't be able to do it. But if he can make the beam big enough, you have PBA Kashimo. Kenjaku, I mean, now it's questionable. He was one tap by Yuta, but like, Kenjaku, a couple maximum Uzumakis, a few consistent curse spam, a domain or two. Yeah, you can probably get devious with Kenny too. And obviously Yuta Okotsu can now just definitively scales above Kenny, has the sauce to immediately just Mahoraga out. And Toji's very matchup specific. Like, Inverted Spear of Heaven is the only thing that saves Toji in that matchup against a fresh Mahoraga. But even still, a fresh Mahoraga is pretty inarguably a top 10 character in the verse, just because of how bulky and, well, once again, it's kind of a longevity thing versus a bulk thing when it comes to Mahoraga's regeneration, its survivability, and just a lack of overall big beam attacks in the verse that could erase Mahoraga. The only, like, non-conventional top fiver that I could see really take out Mahoraga in one shot is Ryu if he opens up with that city-wiping Granite Blast. That's about it. Almost everyone else in the verse struggles to do anything to Mahoraga. So Mahoraga clearly just puts the 10 Shadows technique on its back and carries it leagues and leagues and leagues, miles upon miles upon miles. But now it's cooked. Gojo Satoru, he didn't even aim it. He just said, "Oop, I'll take my Keyblade down off the wall." But he went, "Whoo," and just let it rock. And now Mahoraga is rocked. So the best of the 10 Shadows is no longer a viable option. There's no more. If Megumi somehow mystically magically comes back and no brain damage or anything and goes on his instincts, "With this treasure I summon," nothing's going to happen because Mahoraga is cooked finer than a 5-star steak dinner. 3 Michelin stars and everything, Mahoraga's more cooked than that. So Mahoraga ain't coming back no more. So what does that leave us with? What does that leave the 10 Shadows with? Well, don't worry, I made a little list confirming what it leaves us with. It leaves us with the Toad, something we don't even see Sukuna use once in the battle against Gojo, I believe, because it's still that fodder. Even in Sukuna's hands, he doesn't find a use for the Toad. We have Rabbit Escape, a solely defensive technique, and even in Sukuna's hands, the rabbits appear to be the same size. They don't get, like, car size, which is what I was hoping for. So the rabbits are still the same size, and they're pretty much harmless. Divine Dog Totality. I mean, that's still decent enough. You know, it's able to harm special grades in Sukuna's hands. It was able to press Yorozu, a pretty powerful Heian-era sorcerer. So, like, it's not the worst. Piercing Bull. I mean, it's simple, but it's sweet. You know, if it, with, like, 10 feet worth of charge and a second charge after that, was able to knock around Yorozu. Like, well, that's pretty impressive. Some pretty decent stuff. So maybe the Piercing Bull may just be like that a little bit. But once again, it's just no Mahoraga. Oh, wait a minute. We're all good. We're all good. We have the GOAT Mini Elephant. Max Elephant, Mini Elephant, Myriad Elephant, all fused together into Gigafin. And we know that Max Elephant solos the entire... It is one of the only Shikigami, outside of Mahoraga itself, to harm Gojo Satoru. Aito doesn't even really harm Gojo Satoru at all. Once again, it's questionable if it could even break through the infinity. But, you know who did harm Gojo Satoru? A Piercing Water from Miniature Elephant. Minifin, almighty. So Minifin is good. But that's it. Max Elephant, Divine Dog, Rabbit Escape, Piercing Bull, and Toad. That's all the 10 Shadows has left. Plus its more basic abilities of being able to hide in the shadow, teleport through the shadow, store stuff in the shadow, and Chimera Shadow Garden. But we're cooked now, right? Like, sure, maybe Sukuna could work up some magic with this list of random fodder, but you lost a lot of the general utility. All you have now is a water guy and some tongue stuff, which I know some people may be into, and a heavy hitter in the Piercing Bull and Max Elephant, which is also the water stuff. And I guess the Divine Dog is a heavy hitter too. So, I guess, realistically speaking, that's not really competing with the Limitless and the Six Eyes, though it doesn't have to anymore, since the Limitless and the Six Eyes is also dead. I feel like that would be like that sometimes. But is it really competing with, like, Angel's technique? No. Especially since none of them can fly anymore. Like, I'm not even exactly sure. Like, legitimately, if Angel were to just fly up in the air on a 10 Shadows user, what do they do now? Like, before they could ride up on Nue, send Nue up to do something. It would get Jacob's Ladder too. But, like, before there was some sort of argument you could make for a 10 Shadows user, but with only the Toad, unless the tongue can reach 15 miles into the air, Piercing Bull, unless it can literally learn how to run on air, Rabbit Escape, unless it can escape into the air, Divine Dog, unless it can dog into the air, Max Elephant, unless it can propel itself with its water from the trunk to Mayfan its way all the way up to Angel, it's not doing anything to Angel's technique. Realistically speaking, it sounds like all these things sound like a copy victim. Like, it sounds like Yuta has a field day with these remaining Shikigami. Heck, Kenjaku sounds like he would give all of these things back shots before allowing them to give him back shots, because, you know, Kenjaku's the back shot beast. Might as well let some beasts give him some back shots. And even Phantom Beast Amber Kashimo, as long as he dodges the water from Minifan, which will be literally impossible because it's miniature elephant, strongest Shikigami in the verse. But even Phantom Beast Amber Kashimo may start piecing these bad boys up. Start tearing heads off, going crazy, buku bonkers. And Ryu sneezes in their general direction and they're all vaporized. So yeah, I guess maybe everyone's right. I guess the 10 Shadows is kind of just done. It's over now. There's nothing else we can really expect from it. Because now there's no hope for it. So, I'm sorry, all you Megumi fans out there. I'm sorry, all the 10 Shadows fans. It seems like, while I may have been wrong that the 10 Shadows was a bad technique before, it seems like there's just no hope for it now. Well, it's been fun, y'all. Is what I would say. Is what I would say if we didn't have a certain little itty bitty scrumdiddlyumptious mechanic built into the 10 Shadows that I like to call the Totality. So, the thing about Totality is that we have no idea how it works, really. Like, notably, the only Totalities we've ever seen are Divine Dawn Totality and Ahito Totality. Those are the only two. We've seen Wells Abyss fusions with the frogs, but other than that, we have no idea how the Totality truly functions. Mainly because, Megumi likes to keep his Shikigami alive. But of course, it seems like Sukuna didn't have that same idea. And maybe Totalities are actually the way to go from this point on. Because when you think about it, Ahito being summoned most likely means that Morning Tiger, Round Deer, and even, the big, well, obviously Orochi was cooked. Orochi was cooked by Sukuna itself. But that's the thing. Maybe Sukuna cooked those Shikigami because he knew individually they wouldn't be worth much. But if he was able to stack 3 Shikigami into 1 for Nue, and we get a beast as powerful as Ahito, which on its own is nigh on slaughterable for a majority of the verse, and is probably extremely powerful, even though it falls beneath the level of Mahoraga, because of course it does, Sukuna, because of course it does, and Gojo, because of course it does. What would happen if we were to, I don't know, infuse everything that's destroyed now? Because now Nue's up for Totality. Obviously, Orochi's been up for Totality and has been fused into multiple separate things. Obviously, now we have Morning Tiger, whatever that was supposed to be, in Totality. And what else do we have to go into? Mahoraga. Now, here's the thing. The extra weird thing about Mahoraga is we have no idea how a Totality with Mahoraga would work. Mainly because, this is the first time Mahoraga's been tamed ever. I assume Mahoraga may have perished in the past before. We know it perished against Sukuna. Maybe there was some tag team that was enough to beat Mahoraga in the past, but this is the first time Mahoraga's ever been tamed. Megumi himself says, hey, no one's really been able to use it before. So now that Mahoraga's up and sacrificed, annihilated, wiped from the timeline, its essence is now perfectly viable. And we know Mahoraga on its own. If we... Hold on, where am I... No, my glasses. I had the bit planned and everything. No, please. Glasses, show yourself. Don't you hide from me. Fine. But hypothetically, Mahoraga, on its own, was already better than the rest of the technique, but also already better than 4 Shikigami slapped together into 1. Admittedly, Mahoraga was adapted a whole bunch by Sukuna beforehand, but still, Mahoraga, on its own, especially if you think it doesn't adapt stats. If you think it does adapt stats, it's kind of iffy. Do you think it came out, do you think Sukuna's Mahoraga is relative to Gojo at base, or is it only relative to Gojo because Sukuna was adapting for it and allowing Megumi to adapt for it, and it didn't adapt stats along the way, while Sukuna was wearing the wheel and all the wheels in the shadows? If you don't think that, you think Mahoraga is just uniform, Mahoraga, fresh out the box, is apparently able to tag and catch off guard Gojo Satoru on a couple different occasions, with a little bit of support from Sukuna from time to time. That's very, very good. It's stronger than Ahito. Once again, a 4-part fusion of Sukuna output fueled Shikigami. Mahoraga clears that. So now, imagine all that raw power, all that raw girth, all that raw juice on top of Nue, on top of Orochi, on top of Morning Tiger, on top of Round Deer, all being shoved into one of the 5 Shikigami of our choice. I think that could get tragic, pneumatic. It could be automatic. Think about it. Because we only really have two, well, I guess three. We have three heavy hitters left. We have Rabbit escaping Toad, and like, I'm not out here gonna start like repping Toad. Like, I'm not even gonna lie and say I'd sooner rep that filth, disgusting waste of space. And I need to find more adjectives. What was another synonym for waste? We'll talk about Panda another day. And by another day, I mean we'll slander him again one day. Will I ever make a video on Panda? Never. I give it like 5 months. But with that being the case, I'd sooner rep. That's a lie. I can't even lie like that. I can't. I feel like lightning will strike me if I lie and say I'd sooner rep Mini Panda before I rep Toad. But I'm not gonna rep Toad. But I may rep Rabbit Escape, because can you imagine Rabbit Escape infused with Mahoraga? Imagine electric adapting gigantic sad rabbit. I don't know. What does Morning Tiger do? Why is it called Funeral or Morning Tiger? I have no idea what Morning Tiger does. But like, imagine rabbits that can adapt to everything you do, that come in their massive quantity that they do in Rabbit Escape, with enough raw power of Mahoraga on its own, infused with Nue's electrical abilities, infused with the fangs of Roaring Tiger, and the size of Orochi. Imagine just a whole bunch of car-sized rabbits that are coated in electricity lunging at you, and every time you punch one of them, since they're all kind of the same thing anyway, they're just like this chorus of wheels that swing, 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 and adapt massively, and suddenly you have this whole army of rabbits, which every time you execute one, the rest adapt, so you can no longer execute the next rabbit in that way. That would be crazy, and that's just for Rabbit Escape. Imagine Piercing Bull, already infused with the base raw power of Mahoraga, with a wheel above its head, with Orochi's raw size, which is going to be gigantic. The bull is already pretty big, but imagine that. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention this with rabbits, but with round deer infused in there, the bull's now going to be basically immortal. Same thing with the rabbits. It's going to be super hard to execute them. And top that off with them being sad. I'm sorry, I have no idea what else Morning Tiger does other than make things sad. But with that being the case, give it the fangs of a tiger, or the claws of a tiger, I guess, as it's charging at you, the Piercing Bull could go crazy, plus it's already momentum stacking ability. That could be absolutely wild. You're going to have to not only hit it hard enough, you're going to have to hit it quick enough so it doesn't adapt to you, and you're going to have to hit it quick enough, big enough, and fast enough that it wipes out the entire thing before it can regenerate with Round Deer, on top of Mahoraga's built-in. Imagine Round Deer regeneration, which is already shown to be insane with Ahito. Top that off with Mahoraga's built-in regeneration and the adaptation that comes with that. It'd be literally unstoppable. The Piercing Bull would be unstoppable. It'd basically turn into, what's his name? Gosh darn it. He has the gem of Sidorak. Why do I know not Colossus. What is that guy's name? Juggernaut. Why did Juggernaut's name escape me? He would literally, the Piercing Bull would turn into Juggernaut. It would be literally unstoppable, unslayable, and adapting to everything you do every single time you hit it. Mahoraga being destroyed gives us that option now. For the Divine Doge. Duh. Can you imagine the Divine Doge, the size of a skyscraper, with even more massive fangs and claws, with a frowny face painted on it, and the amazing electrical, I forgot the bull would be electrical. The bull is going to be sparking as it runs at you, by the way. But for Divine Doge, sparking with electric claws as it's coming at you, a gigantic wheel above its head, tearing into you and likely tearing through a majority of creation with its raw abilities, size, stats, and durability. If Megumi's, Divine Dogs are so lemmithy that the Totality was that lemmithy, that it could damage the special grade Hanami, the most bulky of this, Dagon's kind of weird. Dagon or Hanami, one of the most bulky disaster curses. If Megumi's Divine Dog Totality could do that, imagine the new Divine Dog Totality, which isn't just going to have the Divine Dog sword inside of it, but Nue's electrical abilities, the survivability of Round Deer, the survivability of Mahoraga, and the adaptability of Mahoraga, and top that off with the electric juice from Nue. And it may have wings, and may be able to just fly. Like, all these things could just fly. And of course, there's the final thing. The final one. The most mighty of the Shikigami. Imagine, but imagine Max Elephant infused with the water's electric. Boogie woogie woogie. Like, imagine quite literally boogie woogie woogie. It'll probably get the boogie woogie technique without how broken it would be. But imagine Max Elephant with the claws. Well, actually, no. Well, yeah, with the claws and fangs of Morning Tiger, most likely, with the regeneration of both Mahoraga and the Round Deer. And I didn't even mention, I'm focusing on Round Deer because the main thing is just regeneration, but also its natural negation of all curse energy that would come even close to it, thanks to it constantly releasing RCT, plus it's the adaptation ability of Mahoraga, on top of Mahoraga survivability, plus the built-in RCT blade, probably every single claw and every single tusk would either turn, we may have one tusk being an RCT tusk and another tusk being a regular tusk, reinforced with cursed energy to get even crazier with that. And then you have the Orochi size stacked on Myriad Elephant. Like, remember how big Max Elephant when Summoned by Sukuna was already? Now schmack Orochi size buff onto it. Dog, you know how crazy? Imagine it with wings. It's gonna start flying at you. This literally like multi-city block ton. That doesn't make sense. Multi-ton. Well, elephants are already multi-ton. Probably like multi-megaton elephant flying at you, spewing electric water that's infused with positive energy, so it's dispelling any of your curse techniques that you throw at it, and it lunges at you at full force. Oh, that'd be crazy. And once again, this is just going under the assumption that you don't just sack the rest. If you fully invest in the ultimate 10 Shadow Shikigami, you slaughter everything. You slaughter the toads, you slaughter the rabbit escape. Well, I think rabbit, unironically, you may want to invest in rabbit escape in this scenario. Unless if you sacrifice rabbit escape, you get the numerous amount regardless. But just imagine everything invested into Max Elephant or Divine Dog. Probably Divine Dog, because Max Elephant may be a little bit too slow. But then again, with Mahoraga's speed, maybe it wouldn't be. Essentially, the 10 Shadows technique is not dead. You could get extremely creative with what you have left, and honestly, you may just want to keep often more of them. Because if Totality works in the hypothetical way that it should, you could infuse literally everything into one and make the mightiest Shikigami that anyone has ever seen, most likely surpassing the Queen of Curses, and maybe even surpassing Sukuna himself. But that's what I think. I think the 10 Shadows still has a bunch of untapped potential and could become maybe the best technique in the entire series given enough time and prep. Will we see it? No. It's highly likely that Totality doesn't even work the way I think it does. Honestly, it's still trash. But with that being the case, there's still so much potential that could yet be seen. The Megumi's still cooked. Regardless, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave Minifant, MINIPHANT, Minifant, in the comment section down below. I would like to thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I would like to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Wakanda Plays, Redwell, 4765, and Greyhound. I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, Demix LND, and Igneal. I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchio, Joaquin, Idemokami, and China Doll 09. I'd like to give a thicker than a snicker thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another thicker than a frozen jar of peanut butter thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.